still talking about friendship, and Marilyn is going to talk about the wonder of friendship. Could be about the wonder of how she fell madly in love with her friend Rule. I don't know. Marilyn agreed.
Starting something?
Leave it to Cindy.
Now I'm speechless. Okay, the wonderful world of love. Okay, let's start over. Today we're going to be talking about the wonder of friends, and it is the wonderful world of friends. I hope we had a little bit during that meditation of feeling that world that is within us and around us at all times. And that world is part of our friends are in that world. And I think I'm going to start with a little visual. I've shared this here before, but this is just something that gives me a visual of friendship and of friendship in the world that surrounds us. And I've talked about Alan Cohen, who is a Course in Miracles teacher, and he's been teaching for many years. And Course in Miracles principles are very similar to Unity's principles. And just recently, I've sort of gotten reacquainted with him. And so I picked up this book that I've had for many years. And in the beginning, he talks about friends and spoons, which sounds like a funny topic, but I'm just going to read it. There is a story about a man who left this earth and was taken on a tour of the inner realms. He was shown a room where he saw a large group of hungry people trying to eat dinner. But because the spoons that they were trying to eat with were longer than their arms, they remained frustrated. This, his guide told him, is hell. That's terrible, exclaimed the man. Please show me heaven. Very well, agreed the guide, and on they went. When they opened heaven's door, the man was perplexed to see what looked very much like the same scene. There was a group of people with spoons longer than their arms. As he looked more closely, however, he saw happy faces and full tummies. For there was one important difference. The people in heaven have learned to feed each other. And so I feel that that is what we get to do in our lives. When we have friends, we can feed each other, not only physically, but spiritually and emotionally. And I think this community is a place where we can come and learn to do that. Having friends is a place where we can come and learn and know our truth. Each one of us is on a different spot maybe in our journeys. But here we come together to practice what we learn here and know and encourage each other and lift each other up. And so this is a wonderful place in this community and in our outer community as well, to learn about friendship and to learn how to be the truth of who we are. We experience our connectedness and our oneness with the divine in each other through friendship. Our ups and downs would not be the same without the supportive presence of friends. We can know the unconditional acceptance and love of God through friendship and share that love by being a good friend in return. So we all have friends in our life. We have friends from when we're little to hopefully when we're old. And they love us, and sometimes they drive us crazy, and sometimes they're the thing that pushes us when we're not ready to be pushed. And sometimes we push back and sometimes we don't, but through friends is where we learn to practice loving, giving relationships, no matter what kind of relationship it is. And I found a quote by Anais Nin, who I hadn't heard of before, but she's a French-born American author. And she says, each friend represents a world in us, a world possibly not born until they arrive, and it is only by this meeting that a new world is born. So it suggests that the people we befriend introduce us to new perspectives, new interests, and aspects of ourselves that might otherwise remain dormant. Through these connections, we experience a kind of birth of new worlds within us and our own consciousness, enriching our understanding of ourselves and the world that is around us. So that's a big order. That's a lot that friends can bring us to enrich our lives. Friendship fosters self-discovery. By interacting with our friends, we explore the facets of our own personalities that we maybe weren't aware of before. Sometimes they may be great, and sometimes it might bring up some anger and some other things that, we don't know are within us, but that they're there, and once we can't do anything about them if we don't know they're there. And so through friendships, we start to learn this. So new worlds are born through that connection. The quote suggests the potential for these new worlds within us is realized through befriending others. Friendship is also a transformative experience. This helps to transform us. So now we have lots of friends, and there's different stages in our lives where we meet friends. And as I was thinking about this, I was thinking through, and I'll share a little bit about some of the stages in my life. And I know they're not the same as yours. And this is what helps to develop our personality and makes us different. When I was little, there was only one other little girl on the block who happened to be 6 months younger than I was. So I really only had one friend until I was old enough to go to school. And back then we didn't go to preschool, we went to kindergarten, that was the first. So basically I played with one person for, 4 or 5 years of my life. So that was good because I had this friend that I could rely on, but it wasn't good because I didn't learn too much how to interact with other kids and maybe fight for myself and play games with someone else. We just kind of, if we had a disagreement, it ended quickly because otherwise we didn't have anybody else to play with. Now, some people maybe had a lot of friends. So then we move on and we start to go to school and we meet friends, we connect with people maybe that, whatever chemistry we meet, we connect with them and we play, and then we get older and we become teenagers. And again, we have friends a lot through our interactions, mostly through school, some of us maybe through church, some of us through other places. But we just, the way we meet friends keeps growing. And then we become adults. And young adults oftentimes meet friends through work. They meet friends as they're starting to start their own families through their children. But as we grow in our lives and become older, adults meeting other adults, we start to change a little bit of how we are meeting our friends. And we sometimes start to think, well, and I know as a world, I guess, as a country, we've started separating ourselves out. We want our friends to think like we do. We want our friends to maybe have the same tastes and desires as we do. And we start surrounding ourselves with friends that we really feel comfortable with. But if we're wise, we also start noticing that, well, maybe this person, I know I have a neighbor right now that when I first moved into where I live right now, I thought they were, I don't know, a little standoffish and, I thought, well, just kind of stay away. And my other neighbor said, they're nice people, but they're a little odd. And I thought, well, that's interesting. But as time moved on, we started interacting a little more. And as we started interacting a little more, they have different tastes, different lifestyles, different ways of being in the world than I am. But as we get to know these people and leave them in our lives, they start introducing us to other things. They start showing us other ways of being. Sometimes we can learn good things from them and say, oh, maybe I would like to do that too. Sometimes we know there's something that we don't really want to do. But this is how, if we open ourselves up, we can learn from our friends. We can support each other that way. The philosopher Cicero wrote, "Friendship makes prosperity more shining and lessens adversity by dividing and sharing it." So friendship can, if we share with our friends our prosperity, our wonderful things that are happening to us, if we share that with our friends, it makes it even more. And if we divide our unhappiness, it makes it easier to bear because we're sharing it with others, with people that we know that we've come to grow with and love. Our soul is nourished by friendships, and our joy is multiplied by the blessings of friendships and love. And some of you know that we just got back from Hawaii about 2 weeks ago and was with family and friends. And, it was so much more fun. We're all very different. We were all different ages. We saw things differently. But because we were together, it was so much more fun than it would have been if we just would have been on a single trip. Now, we don't all agree with everything, and we have different personalities. I was the mom, and now, well, my daughters and granddaughter are all also adults, so that was a different trip. I will share with you, I'll open up, friends allow us to be vulnerable, and I had an experience on this trip where I had to open up myself and allow myself to be really vulnerable if I wanted to do the thing that we were going to do. One of the things that we had planned to do was go visit a cloud forest. We were on the Big Island, Hawaii at this time, and we had to, that was one of the things that I chose that I wanted to do because I'm like, I have no idea what a cloud forest is. I never heard of a cloud forest before. So as we were preparing to go to this place, we had these releases that each one of us had to sign. And it talked about, there could be tree roots and shrubs and it could be, it would be probably wet, and there could be moss and slippery leaves, and it was kind of a high elevation. And so that was thrown into it. Somebody from Tri-Cities that's used to being flat and no hills and no stairs even, kind of thing. So all that was thrown into it. And it went through my mind as I was filling this all out. I wonder what we're going to be doing, So I thought, no. So we get there, and actually my daughter had signed us up for the group that had children in it, thinking, well, this is going to be easier. So we get there, and everyone gets, it was bamboo walking sticks that each person is going to have a walking stick. And I'm looking, I'm thinking, I don't know. And I'm looking at the first hill we're going to have to go up, and it was probably, I don't know, I might be exaggerating a little bit, but from this level to the level of the ceiling in a pretty short distance. And I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, I don't know, because what you guys don't know about me is that I look perfectly normal, but I have some balance issues, and I have a bad knee, and most of the time I'm walking around just fine, but when I see something like that, it's a little bit of a challenge. And there's, I don't know, 30 people in the group maybe. There was a bunch of people in the group. So I decided I really want to do this. And we had a really nice guy that explained how it doesn't rain very much in a cloud forest. We're basically up in the clouds. And that's what waters the trees. And they explained how this one was created by one woman, and very, very interesting, very informative. So we start out on this trip up the hill, and I might as well say it since Cindy spilled the beans. Rule was there with us, and he was very helpful for me, and my children were there, you know, my granddaughter, and I just, you know, at first I was like, I didn't want to feel embarrassed because I just couldn't walk around like everybody else could. I had to be really careful. And but as time went on, everybody in my group was there to help me, and it was about an hour and a half, I think, of walking through this, you know, up and down and on wet moss and leaves, and it was just a wonderful experience. It was a wonderful experience in seeing what we went for, but for me to allow myself to be vulnerable in that place in public, and the gift that I got in allowing that to happen. I mean, I came down there and I thought, I can do anything in this world after I did this. So that's what friends can do for us. They can open us up to things that we wouldn't ordinarily do. And we can do it in lots of other ways. We balance each other's strengths and weaknesses. We certainly did that for me on that trip. It's a gift that we both give and receive. We may not always agree with our friends. And here's another place that I have found that in this group here, in places like book studies, in places like, most of you know I'm a member of the Al-Anon program, 12 Steps, and we support each other. And we support each other through the good and the bad. We support each other and help each other grow by allowing ourselves to be open about our experiences in our lives. Now, there's different types of friends. Some of them are just casual friends. There's somebody that we may run into, I would say, like there's a couple people in the grocery store where I go to a lot, you know, that I usually try to go to their aisle because I like them, I've talked to them, and they're just casual friends. And then there are other friends that are somebody that we see in other areas that we come to know, and maybe we're in a book study with them and we come to know them a little better. And then there's close friends who, here's where we can begin to learn about trust, because we have this acquaintance, and now they become a friend, and now they're getting closer friend, and we can start to trust them a little more. And that happens when we join groups, and now we can start to learn trust. I know trust is one of the things that was very difficult for me in the beginning, trying to learn trust. I was like, I didn't trust anybody but myself, you know, and I didn't trust myself half the time either, but at least I knew. So we can learn trust, we can learn all kinds of things from friends, and it is a new world. And then there's friends for a lifetime. And I'll share again a friend that I didn't meet until I moved here. So, and that's kind of the path that took. We met in a book study, and then she was a massage therapist. And the day after Christmas, the first year I was here, I decided I wanted a massage, and I actually fell on black ice going into the massage parlor. And she wasn't there yet, but I had her number, and I called her and I said, well, are you on the way? And she said, yeah. And I said, you know, I think I've broken my wrist, and I think that I'm maybe starting to go into a little bit of shock because I started feeling funny. But I was in my car, and she said, I'll be there in a minute. She came, and here's where, you know, disagreements. We weren't close friends. We were, you know, and she said, oh, let's just go down in my office and take your glove off and we'll take a look. And I said, I don't need to look at it, I know it's broken. By that time, it was about 15 or 20 minutes had gone by. But I thought, okay, I'll go down and look. And so I said, I want to take the glove off. And we took the glove off, and this hand was like a question mark. And she went, oh. So she proceeded to take me to the hospital. But she not only took me to the hospital, she stayed with me the whole time. And it made it lighter for me. I felt a little more confident because I had someone with me that I knew. I knew that this woman thought like I did, because we had gotten together in the book study that was happening at the time. She stayed with me the whole time. I ended up staying overnight and having surgery the next day. She went home and got another friend who went to my house and got my sister, brought me to the apartment to see. So this friendship started and it's blossomed. Then we learned we're both Marilyn. We both have the name Marilyn. In fact, we became known for a while in our group of friends as the Marilyns. I was talking to her one day on the phone, and I was talking about Dorothy, and she said, "Who's Dorothy?" Our mothers were both named Dorothy. Our names were both Marilyn. One of the friends in the group said, well, this is getting to be too much. There's two Marilyns. We can't do this all the time. So, did you ever have a nickname? And I'm like, yep, I did. She said, what was it? I said, Fred. She said, Fred? And I said, yeah. And it's like, well, that's not going to work because she was dating Fred at the time. So then Marilyn had been in the restroom at the time. She came out and she said, have you ever had a nickname? And she said, yep. And the other one said, okay, what is it? We can't use, this Marilyn's. And she said, well, mine won't work either. And she said, why? She said, my nickname's Fred. Now, it just kept going on from there. She and I are still best of friends, and I think we probably will be lifelong friends. And I've had lifelong friends that I left behind. I moved, but there are friends, as I think Cheryl shared last week, that no matter what we know, I know I could pick up the phone and they would be right there with us, right there for me or with me. So friends just enrich our lives. If we want to celebrate the wonder of friends, being a friend, we learn to express the love, patience, and caring of our spiritual nature. That indwelling Christ, we get the chance to build that up with friends. We talk here about allowing the Christ in me to greet the Christ in another. We receive and give love in friendship. We have a commitment in recognizing the divine potential in each other. And I think we do that here. We see the potential as people come and join us and start to find the opportunities here that they can have to stretch and grow. Friendships grow. In our world today, I think one of the things that we're missing since COVID was not the ability to reach out and touch our friends. And in our world today, we've gotten out of the habit of having that close human contact. We need to be able to touch someone, not only physically, but emotionally and spiritually. And in friendships, we can learn to do that. In our world today, if we could look one of my early teachings in Unity was to find our place of agreement. If we look for it in friendship, we'll find our place of agreement. We don't have to be exactly like the friend. All we need to do is to be willing, to be open, to be vulnerable, to allow ourselves and others to be who they really are without trying to change them. As we say here when we bless each other, we love you, we bless you, and we appreciate you just the way you are. If we can remember that in our daily life and not always have to have everybody exactly like us, not have to be there was a time when they called it tribes, that we all were separating ourselves. but opening ourselves up to the beauty, the experience of allowing ourselves to be our true self with each other. And so I encourage you to think of friendship maybe in a new way, a way of here's where I can grow, here's where I can give, here's where I receive, and be grateful for every friend we have in our lives. Thank you.